In my home country, I didn't get much independence. It was dangerous for me to go outside for a walk, so I mostly stayed home unless I was attending classes for my college. Infrastructure to help the blind is usually not available, and this means that the use of the white cane becomes extremely difficult at the best of times. Broken sidewalks with obstacles in the way, people parking cars on the sidewalk, and drivers refusing to stop were just some of the many obstacles I had to face as a blind person. I knew my mobility skills were not up to par when I applied for the program. And things didn't change much when I arrived to the US for the CCI program. I had to depend on friends for an extended amount of time and to get to campus on time for a meeting or activity. It was frustrating, but I didn't see a way out of it at that moment. Eventually, after a lot of searching, my coordinator and I managed to find a mobility instructor. I took to the class as well, but I knew a lot more would be required if I wanted to achieve full independence. I hadn't been outside alone since I was 8 years old, so I had to overlearn to overcome my fear of the outside environment, like cars or parking lots. After this, I had to learn to use a specialized GPS built by Microsoft specifically for the blind. The accuracy is only up to 6 feet, so mentally I had to take this into account and adjust for it. Lastly, crossing the road took me a lot of time, as I couldn't yet trust my instinct to measure traffic. The first step I took toward that goal was to invest in a pair of wireless headphones. I used them in combination with the GPS on my phone, which gave me a general sense of where I was going. My next steps were to explore the environment. To be honest, it was terrifying. I had never gone outside on my own before, and I felt like accidents were just around the corner. Eventually, however, I started to understand the layout and create a mental map of the area down to every corner I needed to cross to get to campus. Another problem arose, however, actual transportation. While I could get around the grounds of the college just fine, getting around suburban Pennsylvania on foot is a fool's errand. Since public transportation were limited or not available at the time of my arrival, Uber was the best choice I had on the table for a while. Using the Uber app for the first time gave me a little anxiety as I had no idea on how to notify the driver that I was disabled. Eventually, however, I learned how to send messages to the drivers, and so getting out became pretty easy. I even became familiar with the drivers that drove around the area. With practice and some embarrassing incidents, I learned to run my own errands. By late October and mid November, I could keep up with my classmates and fellow CCI participants if we needed to attend a class or event on campus. I had no problem getting there on time, thankfully. By late December, I had no problems going in and out of unfamiliar buildings. Really, I felt liberated in a way I hadn't felt back in my own country. Some doubts still remained. If I go back to my country, all of my mobility training will not help me. Adjust to the poor infrastructure and the blatant disregard from most people. That said, I can at least say that I now have the confidence to tackle the issue when it comes up eventually. Big aspect to come out of this experience is my desire to work on navigation projects to help visually impaired people. Around November of last year, I began implementing a system where a visually impaired user would be able to scan a tag with their phone and get turn-by-turn directions to any indoor destination. While the system has some flaws, I intend to keep improving on the technology, which is why I've decided to start going into entrepreneurship. Eventually, I hope to develop a head-mounted device that implements many of the features of the navigation app, which should hopefully be cheap and accessible to everyone, especially people from my home country. The end.